First off is the disclaimer. Not one bit of this content is medical or spiritual advice. This content in the Hypnosis package in the About section is designed for entertainment and support. It is always advisable to seek the appropriate help you need and to do your own research. As usual, I appreciate your attention and support. If you find that my uploads resonate with you and your experiences, if you find my uploads helpful, please do not forget to press the like button and share it with people who might find it helpful as well. If you find yourself zoning out in any of the uploads, even better, for these are designed to entertain, relax, assist and support you with minimal effort from you. Now, our topic for today's upload is the verbal abuser who likes or even needs an audience. One might imagine that this is a person who is always mouthing off, but not necessarily. They can be quiet most of the time, or even congenial at other times, but trust that they will be eventually doing snipe shots at you when you start speaking to them, especially if there are statements requiring them to have accountability that they cannot face. Or sometimes when they are just bored and they feel like it. Or when they are in the mood after gaming, drinking, drugging. Or when they feel like it's time to cut you down a peg or two. Show you that they have power over you. Then you will have that sarcastic, passive-aggressive retort or deed, sometimes as if out of nowhere. But it isn't out of nowhere. It's always been there. Just hidden at first, and hidden sometimes. These people who behave that way cannot be authentic and need to make others believe that they are. So they need to open their mouth to sell a particular narrative. This way, the focus isn't on their lack of anything. It stops becoming about their lack of a true self or lack of accountability. The focus becomes what a crappy, horrible, dumb individual you are. It becomes all about demeaning another individual or a group of people. And in this demeaning of others, especially with an audience, said abuser can give himself or herself meaning. They seem to know that in reality, there is nothing inside, that they are frauds. So they need to open their mouth a particular way, thinking to try to deceive others into believing them to be what they are not. The audience can be the strangers at the airport, your peers, your friends, your family, even your own children. No matter what, the constant audience in all this is you. You are always the audience for this, really. But for these abusers, the more the merrier. They might even extend their narrative to a community, the police, or other groups or institutions, but that's another topic in itself. The most insidious way such a person verbally demeans another is by acting the hero, or being the voice of reason or pointer of the truth as they do their abuse, which isn't really the truth. Ever seen that person who interferes, butts in, starts railing at somebody, acting like they are the hero of the situation, and they know all the answers, and it is only fitting and proper of them to declare false judgment on others in front of other people, humiliating others, as if they have a right to behave this way in the first place? For all those out there listening who are parents, perhaps you have experienced this not just with friends, but with your own family, or in-laws, or perhaps it might have been your spouse. They just have to open their mouths a particular way to oppose your way of doing things, to portray you as some moronic villain, as you stand there moved at the level of confidence in which they are doing this, in spite of their blatant ignorance about the matter at hand and their lack of decency and manners. It's even more absurd if such a person is the so-called authority figure of the house, as this authority figure is setting a very horrible, disgusting, and poisonous example, or if that delusional smearer, whoever that may be, has enablers. Unfortunately, it could be an entire family of this you could be dealing with. It could be your family, plus your spouse, plus his or her family, and as time goes by, possibly your own child too, as they learn this manipulative behavior, possibly right down from fetushood. And as you awaken to this, you might be detecting such individuals around you at an alarming rate, and astoundingly, you are not necessarily misidentifying them at all. Why is it that you seem to be attracting such unsavory people in your life? This may or may not apply to you, but the usual answer is childhood. At some point, Usually in childhood, someone modeled this as normal. If you're going through this, you can begin to wonder, were you treated as if you have no agency, no valid thoughts, feelings, decisions of your own? Did you get appropriate care or consequences for your behavior? Did another adult caregiver modeled to be the emotional garbage dump of an abusive adult? Was someone in your family passive-aggressive, manipulative, and controlling? Or were you expected to take in the negativity of others as an avenue for eventually achieving harmony within the family system? Or perhaps an adult caregiver was given this role to be the emotional garbage dump for the emotional comfort of everyone in the household, thereby making the child believe that it is not the duty of normal people to regulate their own emotions, but the duty of the scapegoat. Were you led to believe that such unhealthy behaviors are normal? Did you perhaps see one parent opposing and demeaning another on a regular basis, especially when that parent is disciplining you? Sometimes it's not directly done to the child, but the child is effectively neglected because instead of appropriate parenting, with the parents doing good enough parenting in a united front, the child just sees them fighting. Or the child witnesses drama within the extended family or in-laws. Instead of being a fine addition to the child's life, these people have used the child as a prop for their drama needs. The child learns that the only consequence to bad behavior is one parent being verbally abused and demeaned by the other parent, or sometimes a group of people. The child then learns that there are no consequences to their bad actions. The child learns to be manipulative, passive-aggressive. If the child is good-natured, perhaps he or she won't turn out this way, but will not recognize an abusive behavior for what it is, because a caregiver normalized this as love. It might seem like nothing now, but this has the ability to bring not only difficulties for the child, but also dangers down the line. But back to the verbal abuser who likes an audience. The audience is necessary for this type of abuser, as it makes his or her drama easier to sell, especially for unsuspecting audiences, like people who do not know the real situation or children who do not know any better. The more people believing the false story, the more real it will be, or so the abuser believes. Some of you watching this might be baffled as to why a family member, a friend, or even a spouse would deliberately open their mouth that way in front of others, strangers, or even your own child's earshot in view. What's going on here? The answer is simple. It's an active smear campaign against you. I will repeat this again. This is an active smear campaign against you, to control how you and other people perceive you. It's not a mere trifling or a misunderstanding. This is deliberate hurting, demeaning, and devaluing of you. This is how they operate. Out of all the possible permutations of words that can come out of their mouths, this would be their go-to, especially for you. For you are their target. You are being actively targeted, attacked, smeared on a regular basis under the guise of what seems to be a normal relationship, whatever that relationship may be. Understand this. This is not an act of love. This is not normal. Normalized dysfunction is still dysfunction. What that spouse is doing, or it could be your friend or even your parent, whoever it may be, what that person is effectively doing is psychological warfare. There is no need to make excuses if you think you love this person or you want a harmonious relationship with this person. The fact is, they're usually avoiding some sort of reality or accountability within themselves and elevating themselves at your expense. They are eating the flesh off your back for their sustenance. What you have here isn't a friend, family, spouse, or whatever you might think your relationship with this person is. What you have there is someone who is embarking on a regular smear campaign against you. Someone who gains by constantly biting your back. Someone whose idea of elevating themselves is to tarnish your image to yourself, strangers, peers, family, even your own child. This person is eating the flesh off your back to fill up himself or herself. Who is it in your life? Could it be the family member who isn't genuinely supportively active in your life, but only there to portray themselves as a hero for their emotional gratification? The friend who isn't really your friend, but more like somebody who's looking forward to your downfall? Or could it be that abusive spouse who might be a functional drunk or addict of some sort? Or not even that, but simply a sober, angry drunk with unmanaged issues who cannot help but do snipe shots and attacks on you on a regular basis? You don't have to be drunk to do this. Or perhaps it's not you who's directly experiencing it, but are witnessing it where you at on a regular basis. This is not good for you either, and is also a form of disrespect to you. Why the need to expose you to that? Who wants to see that? Such creatures wouldn't be diminishing another if they weren't totally empty and lacking in value. And I hope you recognize what these abusers know deep inside. You are valuable and worthy of respect. Otherwise, they wouldn't be attempting to feed off you. Now you are mindful, careful, ever so vigilant so that you see it for what it is, no matter what words or drama these abusers are doing. You are completely aware that this is not about you being whatever they're saying at all. You see it for the clown show that it is, so you are not distracted. You never lose focus of the fact that what you are witnessing here is the last throes of the dead pretending to be human, pretending to be alive, pretending to be whatever it's not. It is an act of someone who has and is lost and too far gone. Maybe they can come back, but that can only be done through their own agency, not yours. That's not your job at all, and it would be incredibly dangerous for you to make it so. The reality is, you have a right to be treated with respect, and at the very least some sort of decency. And verbal, psychological, and relational abuse is not decent behavior. It is beyond rude and downright poisonous. If you have children who are seeing this behavior on a regular basis from your family, or worse, your spouse, understand that your children are receiving a regular drip of poison that is normalized to them, and that it is training them to be a manipulator, or a manipulatee, or both. You're not doing anyone any favors by accepting the false reality of such an abuser. You do not have to believe the words of manipulative liars, no matter how hard they try to sell the drama, no matter who they try to rope into their false narrative, no matter how much favor, money, or gifts they give you, no matter how much they attempt to manipulate and abuse you into believing anything. You owe them nothing. They are in fact feeding off you. You know your truth and you never forget it, not even for a single nanosecond. You know what is going on, and you see them exactly for who and what they are. You are now highly armored and immune to their manipulations and abuse. In knowing this, you also realize the role that you unwittingly played that gave such creatures entry into your consciousness, the role that you unwittingly played before you were truly awakened, the role certain people in your life played in training you for that role, and this awareness is the key to freedom. From this awareness, as their tower of lies unravels, you are transformed into a higher, better, and stronger version of you. And this upgraded version of you knows that as soon as someone behaves that way, you are no longer dealing with a proper human, a normal, decent human being. For what sort of a decent human being would be opening their mouth that way with you or with anyone else and be doing these deeds, acting like it is normal, fitting, and proper? A gaslighter would. That's what a gaslighter does. So now they are gaslighting and you are unfazed whilst actively protecting yourself because now, 24/7, boundaries are instantaneous and second nature to you, no matter who it is. And boundaries, especially mental and spiritual and energetic boundaries, are truly pleasurable and amazing. They could be gaslighting, acting like nothing happened, or mouthing off, or they could be attempting to frustrate you by being deceitful, passive-aggressive. And now you are not the least bit affected, for you see it for what it is. You see these creatures for what they are, and your value has nothing to do with whatever they say or do. It's like seeing a dog on the street corner bark and fart. It's just a creature making noise and foul smells. A creature you need not engage at all. A creature whose emotions you need not manage at all. A creature you are not obliged to feed your flesh to. It is simply a creature you protect yourself from, and that you manage with great mastery if you have to. Once you have this awareness, the harder they try to sell the drama to you, whether in front of an audience or not, the more you are sure and certain of yourself, your point of view, your reality, your decisions, and most of all, your agency, capability, and value. Even if you find yourself surrounded by such people, right down to your own set of so-called friends, or peers, or spouse, or other family, or even your own children, there is hope. It does not diminish your value, and whatever they say or attempt to do, it's just that, an attempt. They need to make this attempt because they are desperate to remain the frauds that they are, and you are the most valuable thing they think they can extract from at hand. Imagine that passive-aggressive child who has depressingly learned that the way to gain power is by not doing what they say they will do, and just watching the aftermath of you being abused by your spouse by the end of it. That corrupted child has been taught to gain meaning by exerting power over you this way, and this only works if you are frustrated. Why should you be? Why do you need to be frustrated to serve their agenda? Why should you allow people to weaponize your love for them? Yes, people around are being turds, but nothing is permanent. Everything is temporary, and life is like water. It has its own flow, and it will find its level and balance eventually, and in all this, you need not feed them your value, happiness, and energy. Whether it's that fake friend, that so-called family member, your spouse, or even your own adult child that has been trained into something toxic, the reality is you could still love them if you want, but you do not need to be their power bank for the rest of your life in that relationship. Your energy is yours. Your power is yours. And no matter who these people are in your life, you do not be feeding these zombies the flesh off your back for their sustenance. Your value is not for them to manipulate, consume, or steal, and your belief is only reserved for things that deserve it, beliefs that are beneficial to you. You do not need to believe the lies that these nasty creatures attempt to push onto you through their words and deeds. It isn't for your benefit nor the good of all. It's just for them to eat your flesh to serve their agenda. You do not need to regard zombies as humans, much less enable them. Oh, and as a final note, if you're feeling disgusted by these creatures, good. That is the appropriate emotion for these sickening creatures and their behaviors, for they are, and it is indeed, disgusting. The deceit, betrayal, manipulation, abuse, as you are exposed to this, your body is speaking to you and telling you that you are encountering something dangerous and toxic to you. Feel that disgust to its fullest. Listen to that disgust. Accept that disgust and validate that disgust. The creature might make you believe it is you who are disgusting or wrong, but pay it no mind. It might even yell out loud to you how disgusting you are, in front of an audience to boot. And the more the creature does it, the more you know you're in the right in what you're feeling. You do not need to listen to such creatures over what your body is telling you. You do not need to listen to them at all.